Orrin is a longtime resident of Cupertino, California. And after graduating Carnegie Mellon University in 1967, he came to California to work at Hewlett Packard and received a master's degree from Stanford. While working there.
No, Brad knows that. We've done that duel before.
Proud Cal Bear too.
Don't make mistakes.
Screen's full of them.
And my brother went to Cal. Saw him on a Zoom meeting this weekend.
Oh, good. Okay, you get along. So.
Next.
My grandson's applying.
Oh, exciting. Well, after 35-year management career at HP, he retired and devoted his time to community activities. And he is a former member of the Cupertino City Council and has served twice as mayor. In addition to many other community groups, he is an active member and past president of the Rotary Club of Cupertino. And as part of the club's international service activities, he has participated in 11 project trips to Mexico, China, India, and Central and South America. He was District 5170 District Governor in 2017 and is the District TRF Chair this year. Please give a warm welcome to Orrin Mahoney.
Thanks, Brandy. Let me share the screen here, and so I am here this evening now to talk about the Rotary Foundation and bring you up to speed on a few things that are new about it and some things that are old that you may not know about it. So just let's start with the basics. You know, the Rotary what is the Rotary Foundation? It's basically the Rotary International's 501c3. It's our charitable arm. Just like clubs, many clubs have a foundation that they use for their charitable activities. That's what the Rotary Foundation is to Rotary. And quite a few years ago, in order to increase the impact of the projects that the foundation did around the world, they picked these areas of focus. So for quite a while, there have been 6 areas of focus. You'll see when I talk about some of the upcoming projects that our district has done, they fit into one of these 6 areas. Mm-hmm. But recently, a new area of focus has been added, and that's the environment. Mm-hmm. And we're excited about that for really 2 reasons. There are a lot of people in Rotary clubs today that are interested in working in the environment. Our own club has a climate action group. San Jose has a big climate action group. So the idea of working in the environment and getting leverage, as I'll talk about from the Rotary Foundation, is important. But equally important is the fact that there are a lot of people out in the world, especially young people, that want to work on the environment, and maybe this will attract them to Rotary as another way to work together to do these things. So I'm going to talk about fundraising because, as we said, we're in the annual fund drive, but the whole reason why we do fundraising is to do projects. So I'm going to take people on a little trip around the world just to show you a small set of the projects that this district does every few years. So we're a very generous donor to the Rotary Foundation, our district, and we get a lot of money back in return. We utilize that, as you'll see. And we typically do about $2 million of projects every couple of years. We did one, as you saw in there, was $355,000 just for its own value this year. And Jolene, yeah, we know that it's not a TRF project, but it's a project that we work with you guys as well and do as a district. So
we use DDF.
do you? Okay. Oh, that's right. You do. Sorry, it is. It's not a global grant.
Right.
All right. So what is the Rotary Foundation has three basic elements, two of which you're pretty familiar with: the annual fund, we're in the annual fund drive now, and Polio Plus. One that you're not as familiar with is the endowment. And we learned last year the power of the endowment, and we're going to be working on some things there. So I'll touch upon all these three. So let's start with the annual fund. What is the annual fund? It's the primary funding mechanism for local and international projects, district grants and global grants. So what's interesting is 1/2 of all the money that you donate to the Rotary Foundation comes back to the district. And in our district, it goes back to the clubs in the form of DDF or district designated funds. And the rest is used to match funding for global grant projects. So in this district, the more you give, the more you get. It's very simple. So it seems like magic. What charity can you give to where you get more money back than you donate? There's only one that I know of, and that's the Rotary Foundation. So let me explain how that would work. Let's say that a club donates $20,000 to the Rotary Foundation. As I said, half of that's returned to the district as district designated funds. So now you have $10,000 of DDF. Now let's say a club has another $10,000 that they want to use for a global grant. They have $10,000 in cash. Well, in this district, we have a program called Max the Match, and they can buy $8,000 of DDF. So now you have $18,000 of DDF. The $10,000 that came back automatically and the $8,000 you bought. Well, the Rotary Foundation matches DDF dollar for dollar if you're doing a global grant. So you end up with a $36,000 international project when you put in a total of $30,000. So it's not magic, and the Rotary Foundation does not print money. The way this works is in the past, there were other clubs, and now there are other districts that do district grants that do not get matched. So they're leaving money on the table, and we are picking up that money and leveraging it to the maximum capability for our district. So if you're doing a global grant, you'll get more money back than you gave. So let's look at your club before we get into more in the annual fund. This is your club over the past few years. You're a relatively small club, but you beat your annual fund goal last year. You maintained your goal this year, which a lot of clubs haven't given COVID. And your average per capita definitely beats the district. And I'll talk about Paul Harris Society. You've got 2 Paul Harris Society members, which for the size of your club is very impressive. So you guys have done well, and I'm counting on you to do well again. So what our clubs haven't done as well, and even your club hasn't done as well, and my own home club hasn't done as well, as every Rotarian every year, EREY. So what does that mean? While our district is very generous overall, we had 40% of the members of this district last year that donated $0 to the Rotary Foundation. And we want to change that. We want to get everybody involved and have everybody feel like they're involved in the Rotary Foundation. So we have a big focus on the EREY this year. When I talk about the drawing that we're doing, I'll talk about that. And it's already paying off, just the focus on this. Even my home club has a higher contribution this year than they have ever in the past. Another easy way to donate is Rotary Direct. I'm surprised that in the district, we still haven't had a lot of traction on this. I'm not worried about it for this year, but it's very easy. If you use Rotary Direct, you just fill out the form, sign it, it comes out of your credit card every month, and you don't have to worry about it. So I think we have all experienced Rotarians on this call, so you know that you become a Paul Harris Fellow after you donate $1,000 over time to the Rotary Foundation. And then from there, you get different levels of Paul Harris Fellow, Paul Harris 1, 2, 3, 4, until you're a $10,000 major donor. And it's important for people to give over time, and it's important for them to give in whatever amount they can give. But what's really important, at least to the district and to the Rotary Foundation, is the Paul Harris Society. So the Paul Harris Society is where you donate $1,000 in 1 year. And last year we have a very generous members in the district. We had 319 Paul Harris Society members last year. That was 40% of our total annual fund donations. So 319 is less than 10% of the members. We had less than 10% of the members of the district, club members in the district, that did 40% of the total. So this is very important. We continue to put a focus on this. If and when we did live district conferences, we would do a special event for major donors and Paul Harris Society members. Our fingers are still crossed that we will do a live district conference this year. It turns out our current district governor is from Gilroy, and a couple of years ago he decided that he'd like to have the district conference at Gilroy Gardens. And having been involved in a lot of past district conferences, I went down there with him, and it's an outdoor venue, and we said it's all outdoors, but we figured a way to do it. It's intense, and we can break people up and put some things there. Well, it turns out that's probably the only way we could do it. So we're looking at still doing it in May. We actually, depending on what happens with the international convention, if something happens with it, we could move it to June or whatever, but we still want to try to do something in person, fingers crossed, this year. And if we do, we will definitely have an event there. So I referenced this drawing. In the past, again, there are people around here that know that we've had individual drawings for individual contributions where, based on your contributions to the Rotary Foundation, you had a chance potentially to get a trip to the international convention or a hotel stay at the district conference or whatever. And this year we decided to make it a club competition. So we actually have two club drawings this year. One is an overall annual fund drawing. The more you give, the better chance you have. And there, the prize is significant. It's $5,000 a DDF. So as you heard earlier, that's $10,000 in a project grant. So it's pretty significant for the club to win that. But we also wanted to focus on smaller clubs. We wanted to give them a chance to get a prize and also focus on the Area Y. So any club, if they achieve the Area Y status, and we're being pretty loose about that, it's not going to, if you get to 95%, you're going to be in the drawing. You have an equal chance of doing that, and the prize is $2,500 a DDF. And the cutoff is February 1st. We extended it a little bit from originally, and we'll have a drawing at Greg's February leadership meeting. So that's the annual fund. Polio Plus. So one of the interesting things about our district is we focus on the annual fund in the fall, and we focus on Polio Plus in the spring. That gets very confusing when Rotary International says World Polio Day is October 24th, and what are you doing about World Polio Day? And we said, we're doing it in the spring. And we'll have, so last year we did our Polio Plus initiative virtually. But I do want to provide an update on that, and we're going to talk a lot more about that in the spring. But I'm sure all the people here know that amazing news. Back in August, that the World Health Organization declared Nigeria and therefore all of Africa as polio free. So now we're down to the two last countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan. That's still tough. Those are two very tough areas. I recently rediscovered actually an Academy Award-winning documentary called The Final Inch about getting rid of polio in India. And what's amazing about it is, first of all, that they did it in India because the hurdles were amazing there. But also in that, the parts that they had trouble with in India were in the Muslim populations and the pushback they had. And you can see even today how that just carries over into Pakistan and Afghanistan. The good news is Gates Foundation continues to match us. And the other thing that's interesting, and we talked about this last spring, is that the Polio Plus infrastructure has been pivoted and is being utilized for the COVID pandemic. So it had been used a couple of times before for Ebola and for yellow fever in Africa. But it's now the people have been retrained, and it's all about contact tracing and all of that. And ultimately, when the vaccine is there, and you may or may not know that the current polio vaccine needed to be refrigerated. So the new one needs, depending on which one, needs to be refrigerated or frozen or whatever. I mean, the only way you're going to distribute that into some of the places that ultimately are going to need to be distributed is to have the polio infrastructure from Rotary there. So, and in the meantime, there's still things going on, with polio itself. So the last thing I want to talk about is the endowment. And we don't talk much about it, but last year we really had a lesson, if you will, in the power of the endowment. We had $5 million of donations to the Rotary Foundation from bequests. And most of the endowment, people can contribute directly to the endowment. And we have Brad, you don't know that, we have a new Arch Clump Society member that's coming up right now that's donating directly into the endowment. But most of it comes from bequests. So last year we had $5 million of bequests that were triggered. $1 million from a Rotarian, a past district governor that donated $1 million to the Rotary Foundation, or in his will when he died. $4 million were from a non-Rotarian. That was through obviously a Rotary connection that had worked with him a long time. He understood the work that Rotary did. He had no heirs, and he donated $4 million to the Rotary Foundation. So when you add that up, and the fact that we had some Arch Clump Society members, and that's, for those of you that don't know, it's $250,000 of donation to the Rotary Foundation that donated that for polio, and our strong annual fund last year. We did $7 million to the Rotary Foundation, which is #1 in the world. 530 something districts in the world, we were #1. I don't think I'm going to beat that this year, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to get as close as I can. So endowments and legacy giving, I already talked about. When you become a major donor, you become a major donor where over time you donate $10,000. To be a member of the Bequest Society is really pretty easy. It's $10,000 in your estate plan. It's not out of pocket today. So all you got to do is sign up and say, when that event happens, the Rotary Foundation will get at least $10,000. So I talked about Paul Harris Society, talked about major donor, because what would happen if you did all three? Well, then you would, at the district conference, you would get one of these lovely crowns because we have a triple crown program that's here in the district for exactly that. If you're a major donor and a Paul Harris Society member, and those are tougher, $10,000 and $1,000 a year in cash. And the last easy one is the Bequest Society, sign up for that. So we've had about 20 something members every year, and we'll be working on that later in the year. So again, going back, why do we do all this? We do it for the grants. And I already talked about DDF, so I'm not going to say any more about that. But DDF, again, I'm preaching a little bit to the choir here, certainly with Sue and some of the other people on this call, but DDF can be used for two types of grants. So they're district grants. And again, with Max to Match, we manage the whole district grants by ourselves. No minimum dollars. They can be local or international. Typically they're local, and they're real easy to do. There's minimum paperwork. There is no matching, as I said earlier. That's the downside. With the Max to Match program, we actually do give a 25% bonus. So if you're doing a district grant, you get a 25% uplift from your normal DDF for that. Global grants is where the big action is. As I said earlier, must be international, minimum project size $30,000, formal grant process. It's not easy. You have to do a needs assessment. You have to do sustainability analysis. And why? Because when you're sending $30,000 or $300,000 halfway around the world and to the developing nations, even though there's a Rotary Club on the ground, you really want to be sure that your money is spent in an effective way. Has to fit the areas of focus. DDF is matched dollar for dollar. Cash, which used to be matched last year, 50 cents on the dollar, is no longer matched, but we have the Max to Match program, so we don't care about that. I want to come back to the first bullet here about must be international. By international, the project club has to be in one country and an international partner somewhere else. Most of the time, the US is the international partner. And because, we're working in developing countries around the world, there always has been the capability of doing what we loosely is called a reverse global grant. And one was done in Oakland many years ago before my time. And, but typically it's not, because that means that you've got an international partner that has more money and wants to spend it somehow in the United States. Well, recently the rules were changed under COVID about that funding. So the funding actually can come from the United States. So we've actually had two reverse global grants. One is for personal protective equipment, I think in the East Bay. One is for Rotacare down in around Santa Cruz and down there. And there's a third one that's in process right now for the food bank, Santa Clara County, Santa Clara County, Silicon Valley Food Bank. So that's something to be aware of from a global grant. It's just an opportunity that's there now, currently with COVID. If you want to know about grants, we've got an amazing grant team, to be honest. We've got John Winston, Gita Kandabi, Cecilia is back now from her, trip over to Ethiopia, and is back in a club now and is helping out as well. I just found out today. So one of the things we've done is on the district site now, there's a live spreadsheet that's got every global grant in the district, whatever status it's in, draft, submitted, approved, or whatever. It's got what country, it's got the contact. So if, you guys do so many on your own that I don't think you're worried about this, but other clubs that want to pick up, partner with somebody else, want to do something somewhere can use this to do that. Global grant scholarships. Again, most people in the district do not know that for the past few years, and I think in the continued future, we're going to do global grant scholarships. When I said all the DDF goes back to the clubs, I fibbed. We do peel a little bit off the top to do global grant scholarships and peace scholarships. These are big time scholarships. These are $30,000 per student scholarships. So it's right up there with all of, the top name scholarships that you know of. Has to be for graduate study at an international university. Those deadlines were last year, but they're going to be the same for this year. And I've had the privilege of being on the interview team for these global grant scholars. They are amazing. And this is our current global grant scholar, Abisola Kasima. She went to Stanford, which many of our scholars did. We've got the head of the scholarship team. It works at Stanford, although we've got somebody else taking over. So he's been, working hard on that. We do offer it to all the other universities in the district. As you know, Brad, Berkeley's not in a district, so can't do that. But, so she's going to be going to Ghana and Nigeria and doing some really interesting things with manufacturing, engineering, and economic development. Everybody here gets a newsletter called TRF News, put together by your neighbor, Ed Jellin from the Oakland No. 3 Club. He does a great job of not only talking about the different topics that we've talked about here, but he goes around the district. So I think this month's newsletter is about the Breathing for Life project, which is the biggest. It passed quickly in my projects earlier, but it's the biggest project this district's ever done for oxygen generating equipment in Ethiopia. It turned out, including secondary leverage, to be a $500,000 project, and you can read about that in this month's TRF News. And finally, if you were worried, and I don't think you were, Charity Navigator has rated the Rotary Foundation 4 stars 12 years in a row. So your money is being well spent. And before I stop sharing and opening up for questions, I do want to end up with a final video. I thank your club for its past support and continued support for the Rotary Foundation. And I'll see if anybody has any questions.
Well, before we move into questions, I do want to kind of recognize, because I'm glad you talked about the endowment and the benefactor recognition. We have someone has joined the tier of benefactors in our club, and I'd like to recognize Brad Howard. This is
Okay.
yours. This is not just for my display over here, but
All right.
there we go. And you get a lovely
Ooh, is there a pin? Is there a pin? Has to be a pin. Must be a pin. Yeah.
Very good. Nice, nice.
you wear it underneath your, I guess, Paul Harris. But I really love that the quote, the Arch Clump quote. No one can tell us what Rotary will be tomorrow, but one thing is certain: Rotary will be tomorrow depends upon what we Rotarians do today. So thank you very much, Brad, for adding the Rotary Foundation to your plans. Really appreciate it, and congratulations. I wish we could do this in person. I will drop it off, I guess, on Thursday when I see you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
But yeah, if there's any questions, please feel free to jump in.
So Orrin,
Yeah.
the grants, the global grants that you said could now be both the funding and the project could be in the United States because of COVID.
Yep.
Do you still have to have an international partner?
Yes, but they don't have to supply a lot of money, so it's
No.
much easier, if they're just, yeah. I mean,
So the partnership still has to be there. It's just that
yes.
it can actually happen here.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And I forget who the international partner was for the two that we've already done, but it's pretty. If you've got as you know, a lot of times you build a relationship with another club and do stuff over and over again in some cases. So it'd be pretty easy in that case to get them to step up and do the work of, the minor work and the minor funding of doing that. So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I have a question, Orrin. Back
Yeah.
when I first joined Rotary many moons ago, before I had gray hair, or at least notable gray hair, I was told that when you donated to the Rotary Foundation, every dollar that goes in comes out 3 years later. Is that still the case?
Yeah, no, it's so from that point of view, it's officially. So for a while, the model, if you will, was that when things were always going up and to the right, that from a investment point of view, that that difference, the waiting the 3 years, that was paying the admin. So the idea was that you always got 100% of your dollars back. That kind of has come and gone as markets go up and down now, but there still is that 3-year delay. But for most, like for the district, if you look at the district, our annual fund giving is pretty constant over, plus or minus 10 or 20%. So the DDF that comes back is plus or minus 20% or whatever. But yes, officially, yes, the money, your DDF comes back 3 years later.
But not 100% on the dollar, some smaller percentage. And Brad, you probably know the answer to that.
No, no, the DDF comes back. Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's roughly 50% of what your annual fund is. I mean, now in good years, they're in good years they're paying the investment. So I would say in the last 10 years it's averaged pretty much 100%. Good question though. Don't know.
Last time I was aware of it, we were about 7% was into admin. So it still exceeded 90%, but I haven't seen the most recent. My guess is it's probably lowered simply because of the stock market and investments.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, if you look over time, that 7%, you could easily be averaging that over time, depending on on how you were invested.
So 93 cents on the dollar comes back to projects.
Yeah, I think it's more. I'm gonna find out. I think it's more because if you do have investment earnings in there, that's going to help pay for the So you're not, yeah, you're not, you know, they're not just putting it under a pillow. So they are investing something and making some money. And, you know, it depends on what that average is. It's worth looking up. Good question. Because I've been saying it's all coming back. So I better find out.
We can say effectively all. How about that? Qualify it.
You know, okay, if it's 99, I'll still be comfortable with effectively all. If it's 93, I'm not. So.
Virtually all.
Yeah, there you go.
Virtually.
Our author will give us the right word first.
The room full of lawyers that is Oakland
Yeah,
Uptown.
no. Well, I'm in marketing, so I'll spin it as good as I can.
Vast majority.
Sue, did you have a question or comment or?
I did, when you were talking about the scholarships and you said they had to go to an international university.
Yes.
What do you mean by international university?
Well, so it's Abyssal is a little different, but the last one went to Oxford, and you know, they're going, you know, Oxford. One went to
So it's overseas?
France. Yes.
Outside of graduate study outside of the US?
Exactly.
Okay.
They used to be called, before they were global grant scholars, they were funded by the Rotary Foundation separately, and you applied, you know, and you didn't have to put any skin in the game. But now it's another global grant, just like all the other global grants. We have to fund them.
Okay.
And we've got a really good team working on that. So.
And how many applicants do we get every year?
We probably 6 to 10. That's all.
And that's different from the Peace Scholars?
Yes. So
Okay.
we have nothing to. So we select the Global Grant Scholar. It's our program. We fund it. We select the person. It has to be like any other global grant. It has to be approved by the Rotary Foundation and meet their criteria. The Peace Scholars, and we do interview them as well, and we just recommend them.
Recommend them.
And then
yeah.
someone else actually selects them. And that's a separate, everybody chips in for that. We don't get a Peace Scholar because we chip in our 25,000, but we've been whatever 25,000 buys us a piece, some name, Brad would know this. We qualify for that every year. We do 25,000 typically every year for that.
Okay.
And I just checked with a future president of our organization who just recently was a trustee, 92%.
Oh, okay.
All right, I put your name on it, Orrin. She knows who you are now.
Need to complain.
So Orrin, being our district foundation chair during this time of COVID, I'm curious, besides the raffle, what other strategies are you kind of employing to ensure that donations continue to the foundation? Well,
so this is the first year we've done just what I'm doing for the club, and it's been really well received. I forget how many I've done. I've got 32 scheduled, and probably most of them done. So I've done over half the clubs, and it's been great because there are a lot of clubs that they're new members in clubs, so they don't know about it, and even the existing members don't have a whole picture of it. So we're doing that. What I found was interesting. We had some clubs with goals were lower this year. There are two things that I think are going to impact our annual fund drive. One that I was aware of, and one that I've come to learn. The first one is people have less money. Some people have less money. Some people don't. I mean, I'm retired. COVID hasn't affected me, but it has affected people. The district is actually going to continue a program they had at the end of last year, retention program to help clubs that want to help members that can't pay their dues. If we're helping somebody pay their dues, they're probably not going to donate to the Rotary Foundation. The bigger issue that I've learned is we kind of talked about that earlier, even with your own club, as clubs fundraisers have been challenged. And some of Cupertino's, we've been really successful about maintaining almost the same revenue from our fundraisers as we did. We were very creative about a couple things we did. But if you had Santa Clara, their big fundraiser was a barbecue, they were making $100,000 on that. That just went away. And we've got a couple of clubs that have art shows that just went away. So it's one thing to spin your thing. So what's happening is if the club still wants to do local charitable projects, they're tapping their members. They're tapping their members to do for that money now. And that's gonna, I think that's gonna impact some of the, Rotary Foundation given. So we'll see, all we can do is, the best we can. It's a different time. It's a different time.
Yeah.
And I think overall the Rotary Foundation's, I've heard, we've had some workshops and stuff on that. I mean, it's an issue. I think this district will come out pretty close to where it's been in the past, maybe down a little bit. But.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I mean, it's helpful that we scheduled this talk because the last time we met, we kind of briefly talked about the foundation and grants, and there are a lot of us that are newer that could use that little refresher of like, where does this money go?
Yep. No. And it is, I mean, besides the fact that you can get more back, or that you give, and the leverage, most other places you're giving to a cause, and you feel comfortable that they're going to do good things somewhere else. Here we, as Brad knows, we travel. I mean, I've been to 11, 12. I went to Africa last year on a non-Rotary project that we took a bunch of Rotarians that did Rotary work, and now we're doing an $80,000 project there. So, it's really different when you go to a country, see the project, meet the people, see what happens. So, that's the other thing about our charity versus kind of your money's there, and, they're showing you a picture of what they did. When you go on the ground and meet the people and see their needs, it's really different. It's really special.
Well, I really appreciate that you came and joined us on Giving Tuesday to talk about
Yeah.
the foundation. Let me just share my screen real quick. As a thank you for coming to speak, we will be donating some polio vaccines in your name.
All right.
And
couldn't be better.
I give a spiel about end polio now, but you're part of Rotary. So, and you did highlight what part of the Rotary Foundation contributes, or there are contributions that Rotarians make to polio vaccines. So and that we're polio free in Africa. So it's exciting. There's progress being made. So we really thank you for taking the time. I know you switched your dinner reservation to be here.
It's ready now. That was my wife peeking in and saying that, and our neighbor is coming over. We do Tuesdays with our neighbors.
Again, thank you so much. We really appreciate.
All right, well, it's been fun going back and seeing all the clubs again, and with a lot less driving. So it's almost like I'm district governor again. It's been fun.
Well, thanks, Orrin.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right,
Orrin.
we'll see you guys.
Bon appetit.
Have a good holiday.
Rotary.